The days Jungkook doesn't work and keeps the shop closed, Taehyung takes the opportunity to stay home too and spend time with him, because he's too weak to stay away. They keep busy in the mornings by slowly adorning the house for Christmas because, the alpha has learned, Jungkook is a crazy person that starts to decorate in Novembers, and the long cold afternoons are enjoyed warming up in front of the fireplace while watching a movie with the twinkling lights sprinkled all over the living room. A warm cup of tea set on the coffee table. They treat themselves to a hot chocolate and marshmallows if they're feeling extra self-indulgent that day. By the end of the first 3 weeks they're so domestic it almost hurts. I mean, they have dinner with Ian and Grace and the kids, and isn't it bizarre how well they get along when Taehyung's not being a jealous prick once a week like a recurring date with their longtime friend, for God's sake. It doesn't get more domestic than that. They both have to keep reminding themselves this is all temporary and that they are not an actual couple. Right now, they're outside and they've just finished putting up the lights all around the perimeter of the house and placing the rest of the decorations in the garden. Taehyung is adjusting the green scarf of the fuzzy reindeer Jungkook has named Snowball when something cold and wet hits him in the back of his head, dripping down his neck and making him shiver. He swirls around and glares at the giggling Omega, who's already looking at him, his gloves suspiciously wet. "Did you just throw a snowball at me, Cookie?" he asks, unnecessarily. "What if I did?" The small Omega snickers, cheeks red from the cold and eyes sparkling with joy. "Then I must declare war upon you," Jungkook screeches when a snowball is flung in his direction and tries to dodge it, failing spectacularly when it splatters wetly against his chest. "No, Tae, stop. Why should I? You started it. You're going down," he insists while advancing on him as he keeps throwing the cold white snow at him. The Omega starts to back away and attempts to hit him back, the sound of his giggles echoing loudly around them. He shrieks when the alpha gets definitely too close and stops trying to gather snow in his now wet and icy hands, the freezing cold having seeped through his pink gloves, simply turns around and runs. He glances back and sticks his tongue out at Taehyung, only to get so frantic when he feels the alpha finally wrap an arm around his waist to catch him that he ends up slipping and tumbling to the ground, dragging him down with him. They end up on the wet slippery grass, Taehyung on his back with the Omega sprawled on top of him, breath coming out in short puffs of air crashing against the skin of his face. "Ops!" Jungkook giggles and the alpha feels like the wind just got knocked out of his lungs. Now more than when he fell, he loses himself in the sparkle of the blue eyes peering down at him, the smell of lavender clinging to him like an adorably stubborn snake. They keep looking at each other in the silence of the crisp morning air, glancing down at their lips shyly before looking away in a hurry, both of them trying not to get caught by the other, and without neither of them noticing how they're slowly inching closer and closer until their noses are almost touching and their eyes start to slip closed on their own accord. Suddenly, Jungkook draws back, turns his face to the side and he sneezes. He blinks, looking bewildered and confused by what just happened. What was he thinking? He was going to kiss him. Really kiss him. And then what? Taehyung would have hated him and stopped talking to him and he would have lost him forever. Thank God he had to sneeze and snapped out of it in time. He's so stupid. He's let himself get lost in the illusion of this perfect life with the alpha he's been in love with since forever, allowing himself to get too comfortable in the situation, forgetting that none of this is actually real. "You're all wet." Jungkook's eyes widen and he gasps, at loss for words. And Taehyung curses mentally and hastens to explain himself and backtrack. "We are all wet, like, with the snow and laying on the ground. I just wanted to say that we should go inside and change into some dry clothes before we get sick." "Great, good job Taehyung. You've weirded him out and looked like a complete what?" And what was he thinking? He's almost kissed Jungkook. He is to thank his lucky stars the Omega sneezed and stopped him before he actually did it and ruined everything. Things are definitely spiraling out of control. He's starting to find it too hard to remind himself that this is not real when his feelings are very much real, and they keep getting stronger and stronger the longer he stays there with Jungkook, living the life he's always dreamed about with the Omega he's always been in love with. Jungkook, with his cheeks still burning hotly, stumbled slightly when pushing himself off the alpha's chest and onto his own feet and offers his hand to the other boy to help him up. Not that he could actually pull him up with his thin spaghetti-like arms, but Taekook appreciates the gesture anyway. Come on then, let's get warm and fill our tummies with some delicious food. We have a long and exciting afternoon of Christmas shopping ahead of us indeed. A long afternoon of Christmas shopping they have. Exciting? For Jungkook, yeah, it absolutely is. For Taekook, he saw it he would enjoy shoveling horse shit if it meant spending time with Jungkook. That's pathetic, he's aware. Thank you. Anyway, they've been strolling in the shopping center for the past half an hour. The Omega was buzzing. He was all over the place, giddy and delighted by the jolly atmosphere surrounding them. He's bought some more lights for his bedroom and new trinkets to spread around the house somewhere, a few gifts for Ian and Grace's kids, and then he batted his pretty eyelashes at the Alpha to have him carry the bags for him because they were too heavy. And the Alpha complied, acting like the fool he's for this Omega. Jungkook is fluttering about this way and then that way, almost making himself dizzy with the speed of his movements. Taekook huffing and trailing behind him dutifully with both their shopping hauls weighting him down. And then suddenly, he's being pushed away. Not that he really gets pushed, he doesn't move an inch, but he's felt the forceful for Jungkook touch. What? He frowns in confusion and glances down at the Omega. Jungkook whines and pushes uselessly at his shoulder again, his forehead thumping against his chest in defeat. Go away, please. What? Why? The Alpha is outraged and a little bit miffed. I have to buy a thing. You've bought many things. And I was there. Jungkook glares at him and throws his hands up in exasperation. That's different. He makes a face at him. The Alpha blinks at him. Oh my god, I swear you used to be smarter. He rolls his eyes. I have to buy your gift. I'd usually do that online so they can just deliver it to your house, but since you're here this year I've picked something here. Now leave, please. Oh. Right. He smiles sheepishly at the grumpy boy standing in front of him with his hands on his lips pouting prettily. Alright. Sorry, I was being dumb. You go ahead and I'll buy yours as well. We can text each other when we're done. Yeri doesn't wait for an answer and starts to walk away with a pep on his step and his mind working a mile a minute to figure out what's the best gift to buy for Jungkook. It's not like he hasn't been thinking about it, he has. He's not going in blind, alright? He's just been busy with the case. Give him a break, so he reckons it shouldn't take too long. Don't you start with Cookie. Think. You're 1 year older than me. The Omega shouts, glaring at his back, cheeks aflame and heat curling low in his belly, thanking his lucky stars the Alpha is not able to see how much he actually enjoys the nickname. Taekook smirks. Jungkook has always loved being called Cookie. So he was, well, Cookie. As long as it was Taekook, at least. He started to complain about it around 12 years old, but Taekook knew. He could smell caramel every time he used the nickname. The same smell he can detect now, strong and heady, even as he leaves. No, Ty, don't use the red. We've too many red scarves already. The Omega's voice is slightly annoyed and Taekook pouts at him. He knows he's getting on his nerves by not following his directions, but he can't possibly remember all of them. How the Omega expects him to, he doesn't know. There are so many little details he needs to worry about when frosting the biscuits. It's not his fault if he can't keep track of how many snowmen have a scarf in whichever color. He keeps almost messing up and Jungkook is getting frustrated at him. He's trying. He swears he is. Sorry. There's just a whole lot of biscuits. Cookie, it's hard to keep track of which color I need to use to make sure there's the same number of snowmen for each color. I know. I'm sorry for being an ass about it. If they were just for us I wouldn't mind, but I really want them to look good since we have to give them to our neighbors. Jungkook doesn't even notice his slip of the tongue, too busy with the frosting and keeping an eye on the last batch of biscuits still in the oven so they don't burn, but the hours makes the alpha almost choke on his own saliva, his heart missing a beat before starting to race wildly. He can't believe Jungkook just called his neighbors their neighbors, like Taekook. He lives here. And we're done. Jungkook chimes after another hour, and he smiles prettily at Taekook, hip checking him cheekily. Good job to us. He places his hands on his critically the plates full of biscuits they've piled together on the kitchen table. They look good, don't they? What do you say, Ty? Reckon they'll like them? The Omega looks genuinely worried about the possibility of people not enjoying what they've made, and the idea is so ridiculous it only makes Taehyung even more endeared by the Omega. Don't worry, Cookie. I'm sure they will. They look lovely and everything you bake is delicious. And preparing so many biscuits just for them was super thoughtful and sweet. They'll surely appreciate the gesture. Jungkook beams and raises on his tiptoes to kiss his unshaven cheek and leave a lovingly lick in. Thank you, Ty. But don't forget that you've worked really hard too. It wasn't all me. He uses his finger to prod at the broad chest of the alpha. Come on then, let's go hand them out. As Taehyung knew, the neighbors are indeed very grateful and pleased. They thank them over and over, insisting they have to come over for a cuppa and a quick chat when they're not so busy. Because of course Jungkook is in good terms with his neighbors and he's completely adored by everyone. The old lady next door, sweet lovely Clara, is the last person they go to despite being the closest. And the alpha soon learns why. She pulls them inside, completely undeterred by their objections, and makes them sit down on her flowery fleshy folded futon while she puts the biscuits away so she can give them their plate back. Honestly, Clara, it's not bother, you can give it back anytime. The Omega tries to be reasoned with her. Nonsense. I have enough plates of my own. I don't need to keep yours hostage. Jungkook giggles and shakes his head in fondness at the older woman's antics. She comes back and she sits on the cushioned chair in front of them, a snowman with a green scarf held in her pale trembling hand. They look wonderful, hun, and I'm sure they taste just as good. You don't need to do this every year though. It must be so tiring for you. She frowns at him in a very motherly way and the Omega feels his heart warm up at her concern. Not at all. I love baking, you know that. I also had help this year. She hums and takes a small bite of the biscuit. That must be nice. My husband used to sit on his ass all day after he retired and I had to do everything. Yours is a sweetheart, helping you to bake biscuits for the neighbors and everything. I've saw him tend to the garden too when you were at your shop. You did good. You've chosen a good alpha for yourself, she says, making Taehyung choke on his next bread before pointing a finger at him. You better not slack off, young man. You don't stop pulling your weight and keep being good for your Omega because he's not your personal maid. It's your house too, so you're just doing your job and taking care of it.